to Africa's Ready as a case, thoughts find depth and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a lead generation specialist, non-traditional referral generation strategies, none other than Mr. Mark Newsome. Welcome, Mr. Mark. And can you please introduce me more about yourself that I missed on Africa?
First of all, let me say thank you, Danny. This is a fabulous opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Newsome. I go by the moniker of Mr. Marketing. And basically, what I do is I help small business owners and service providers generate an additional 25% gross profit, typically in less than 90 days, using non traditional marketing strategies and tactics that are low cost, high impact. And I also show you how to monetize drastically underutilized resources, which is sort of what we're going to kind of talk about today in a minute or two.
Awesome. So, Mr. Martin Newsome, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about how to consistently generate at least 25% more qualified referrals for literally pennies on a dollar. So, tell us, Mr. Mark. Most people think of referrals as a happy accident. What is a fundamental shift in mindset required to see a referral generation as a predictable, system driven process that can be consistently optimized?
Excellent question. Let me give you a simple example, and we'll just sort of build from there. Let's say that Daniel owns a successful retail jewelry store, but it's non-franchised. In other words, he's the main guy. He's the CEO and the president and all of that. And what he does is he offers a free drawing. And get this, here's something you won't see very often. Excuse me. Hopefully, you'll start taking advantage of this. He's going to offer every 90 days a 2,500 diamond studded necklace for the ladies and a $2,500 Rolex for the gentleman, which means both of them have equal chance to win, and two grand prize winners will win every 90 days. And actually, you know what? Let's make it sexier than that, because Daniel spends between $30,000 and $50,000. It could get up to as much as $75,000 a month, 2 or 3 months out before the holidays. So he's going to make it really sexy. A $5,000 diamond studded necklace, which cost him half in terms of hard retail costs, and a $5,000 Rolex. So his total budget for this particular in-store, now get this, in-store promotion is 10,000 or $5,000, 2,500 for each. Now, here's the point. The participants have to join his opt-in email list. He'll have a sign up there, and at the bottom, it'll have a web address. They go there, they put in their name, their main primary email address, then they'll be on his list, and he'll start doing what's called a drip campaign, meaning every so often, every week, or 2 or 3 times a week, they'll get messages from him. Now, here's the point. After he chooses the first grand prize winner, the male and the female, guess what? All the runners up, they get a series of 2 or 3 extremely time sensitive emails saying if they come to the store within a certain time frame, so you got to put some urgency on it, they'll save 10% up to $100. Now, that's not very sexy. It's not supposed to be. But then he goes on to say, however, simply for dragging a friend who is at least 18, they automatically save up to 40% off $2,500. Now, you see how that ethical bribe is going to compel a certain percentage of those people who open that email to not only come to his store, but they're going to drag a friend.
Interesting, Mr. Mark. What a nice starting view of how to have something else in life. Can you walk us through the basic economic compared to the high cost of cold acquisition? How does systemized or centralized referral process genuinely achieve 25% plus a boost for more pennies?
Well, think about this. First of all, you alluded to something very, very powerful. Let's think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Typically, how has Daniel been getting his first time customers? Running outrageously expensive ads in the local newspaper, full and half page ads. He also uses the local throwaway guides. He also goes on outrageously expensive local primetime radio, local primetime TV. Think about how expensive it is and think about how many times he has to run those ads. Typically, they say, what is it, Daniel? It's going to be somewhere between 7 and 21, what they call touches or exposures, meaning ads, before the general public even pays attention. Now, when he puts together this free drawing, and he's basically initially working with the in-store traffic that comes into his store. When they come into a store, a certain percentage of those people is going to be irresistible. $5,000 diamond studded necklace for the ladies, a $5,000 Rolex watch for the men. As they enter that drawing, when he starts sending out those emails and says, "Hey, unfortunately, you weren't for the first grand prize winner this quarter. That went to this person and that person. But when you come to my store before this date, in other words, got a cutoff, excuse me, by this date, you save 10 or X percent, some low amount, up to $100, some low amount." He gets him excited. He says, "When you drag a friend who's at least 18, I'll ethically bribe you by giving you 40% or X." These numbers aren't etched in stone, ladies and gentlemen. Get the concept. So he's given a much higher discount as an incentive for his subscribers to go recruit and bring somebody. Now, here's my point. Would he rather his subscribers go bring somebody and not have to put out anything until they perform? Or would he rather run between 7 and 21 ads to get each customer?
Interesting. Interesting, Mr. Mark. And the classic ask is vague and puts clients on the spot. How does your framework move beyond these awkward questions to something more natural and effective?
I'm sorry, now repeat that. I didn't catch it.
The classic ask is vague and put clients on the spot. How does your framework move beyond these awkward questions to something more natural and effective?
Now, when you say awkward questions, what are you referring to?
The one we have our topic on the top that having like 2% referrals
Well, okay,
or
let's say you and I are best friends.
25% referrals.
Let's say you and I are best friends. And
Yes.
I entered this free drawing. You don't know anything about it. When I'm told, hey, you drag a friend and you get at least 40% off up to $2,500. When I text you or talk to you on the phone and I give you the particulars, I'm pretty much saying, hey, man, because we're besties, you're coming with me to the store because I'm going to get a discount. And what you don't know is when you get to the store or my showroom, whatever it is, they're going to hit you with what's called a OTO. What is that, Mark? A one-time only offer. In other words, they're going to say, hey, because you're in the store, as long as you join our email list before you leave the store that moment, you're going to get an ethical bribe. So the point is, unlike an ad, which there's no conversation whatsoever, excuse me, you are leveraging the enthusiasm, are you not, of your subscribers and ethically bribing them and saying, hey, go out there and bring me some more first time customers. And if you'll do that for me, I'm going to reward you for doing it. Most ads you see on TV, ladies and gentlemen, or here on the radio, they just run the ad, do they not? They don't say drag a friend and get extra percent off. They should be doing that. All they do is just keep running these fancy, glossy ads that they paid some agency to produce for them that costs, first of all, costs a lot of money to produce it, right? And then you got to pay
Yes.
all this money to continue this running. And remember, it typically takes between 7 and 21 exposures before you and I even pay attention. What this strategy does is cut to the chase. Now, obviously, everybody who comes is not going to drag a friend. But get this. When McDonald's says, "Would you like fries with that?" They don't get everybody, do they? But they typically average between 10 and 40% of their worldwide daily walk-in and drive-through customer base all over the world. That's how they make a ton of money, because they're not discounting the French fries or the apple pie or whatever it is they offer us. As this is called an upsell. So the point is, this retailer, they're not wasting all that money on primetime ads and billboards and all this other nonsense. What they're saying is, hey, you go out and perform, and I'm going to reward you for doing so. So that's how you cut out tons of layers of bloat, wasted capital, and you only pay when they perform.
On the system and process, Mr. Mark, you teach that referrals must be triggered by specific positive client experience, not a random ask. What does a referral moment look like, and how do we identify in our own client journey?
That's an excellent question. Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. If you're not taking advantage of this, you're missing out. You have vendors, do you not?
Yes.
Guess what those vendors have, ladies and gentlemen? They have employees, they have customers, and they have vendors. Once you leverage that vendor, your vendor, then look at the tentacles that extend out. By extension, they can offer their employees, through you, lifetime discounts of X after they bring in 2 referrals. So you've been, and remember this, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget this. This is very powerful. Everybody knows at least 25 local people. So that vendor's employees, each one of them, that's into jewelry, because everybody may not be into jewelry, right? But they know 25 people. The vendor's customers, each one knows at least 25 people. And the vendor's vendor has the same thing going on. Now you look at the multiples of this that you never, ever, ever, ever reach simply by running ads. And in fact, Daniel, let's remind the people of something very important here, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, in your local community, in his and in mine, somebody just ran a prime time 30-second to 60-second radio or TV ad. And guess what? None of us saw it. And yet that money still came out of their budget, didn't it?
If you had to distill your entire referral system into a one single repeatable sentence or framework, what would it be, Mr. Mark?
Leverage the assets you already have first.
Nice.
And
Interesting.
resources. I'm sorry. Because your vendors
Resource.
could be a resource, potential vendor. Your vendors could be a potential resource. The asset would be leveraging your opt-in email subscribers. Now, something else, Daniel, let's talk about this, because here's what, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much opportunity sitting in front of you, and you got your marketing blinders on. Wherever Daniel's store is physically located, I would have his female employees go out into the community within a 5-10 block radius, no further, and list every business in that area that they already do business with. I would have them go in there rocking a $3,000 diamond studded necklace and some $650 diamond studded earrings. Now, they don't need to know Daniel's temporarily loaning these to these ladies. And when they walk into these shops, whoever makes a positive comment about their bling, they're going to be given a card. It's two-sided, or it could be single-sided, but side one will tell them to enter Daniel's free drawing. for a chance to win, the $5,000 necklace for the ladies and a $5,000 Rolex for the men. And then side B would say, hey, because you are a valued friend of the associate of Daniel, you bring this card and it has to be dated 72 hours. So whatever 3 days date is out, that's the date the employee puts on there when they hand it to them. As long as you bring this card back within 72 hours, you come along, you save 10% or X. Simply for dragging a friend, you save up to 40% off, $2,500 or whatever it is, XX. But the point is, they should start leveraging the people and the contacts they already have right within that radius, because what Daniel wants to do is build an army of local men and women wearing his bling. Why? Because they're going to jump on social media, aren't they? They're going to do selfies, and their employees, their customers, their friends, their neighbors, their besties, their in-laws, their siblings are all going to want to know, where did they get that bling? That's more business for Daniel. Or his competitors, if they take advantage of this and he doesn't.
Wow. Interesting indeed, Mr. Mark. And is it more effective to cast a wide net with all past clients, or to double down on a specific segment? Who makes for the most potent referral source?
And in fact, it doesn't stop there, Daniel, because since Daniel's leasing his space, that means there's a commercial broker on the scene. Daniel's going to hook that broker and everybody in his office, everybody in the broker's office up, including the secretary. He'll give the secretary some diamond studded earrings that cost if she'll drag a friend with her, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, a sister, whoever. If her mom is still alive, whoever. And the agents, the leasing agents, the people who go out and show properties, the mortgage broker, all of these professional people in Daniel's lives, his accountant, his CPA, he's going to hook them all up with some really nice looking bling at cost. If they drag a friend, if they come alone, it's 25% off. So that's an incentive right there, is it not? Excuse me, for them to recruit for him. And remember, he only pays, gives the bonus when they perform. Sort of like pay per click, right? You don't pay any money until someone actually clicks. Now, granted, with pay per click, if your ads don't get a lot of click, they raise up, the cost. But the point is, you got to spend more. But the point is, you don't pay the bulk of it until somebody clicks on your ad. Well, in this way, he's not running an ad and then hoping people come in and get money. No. He's leveraging the fact that they're going to be out there looking good and feeling good, and somebody's going to want to know, hey, I saw your earrings on Facebook, your Facebook Live. That was awesome. And that's the other thing. Daniel could suggest that the women who are in his circle that do Facebook Lives, they should have on his bling when they do it. And guaranteed they're going to get some DMs saying, hey, I love your necklace. I love your earrings. I love your bracelet. Boom.
Mr. Mark, what is the absolute best way to thank someone for a referral that not only shows appreciation but also powerfully incentivize them to do it again?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's an excellent question. And you could go off half cocked. So let's be careful here, because this is a very, very powerful concept that he's alluding to here. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get off of this podcast, go do some homework. I want you to go to YouTube. I want you to go to Google, and I want you to put in, what is total lifetime customer value? Watch a video or two, or read a blog post or two. You have the concept down. You'll be ahead of 95%, 97% of your competitors, because they don't have no idea about this. But to answer his question directly, you need to know what your customer is typically worth over a certain amount of time. And we're talking a gross figure here. But here's the point. Once you know that figure, Now you can get creative with, as he said, how do you optimize your referral generating process? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can't go out and spend $5,000 to get a customer that's only worth 1,500. That's why you see a lot of these people on Amazon with these businesses going broke, because they don't understand this concept. So the point is, you got to know what your spread is, and then you just take a chunk of that spread and you ethically bribe your customers. Like, for instance, you could send a bouquet of flowers to all the ladies who make a purchase who drug a friend. You could give them a gift certificate to a top restaurant so they can bring a friend, courtesy of you. Well, you can't be doing that kind of stuff unless you know what your customers are worth. So know your customer value, or have, it doesn't have to be precise to the penny, but you can't be totally speculative. You gotta have a realistic idea what those customers are worth, those clients are worth, and then that helps you decide on the strategies to generate more.
To generate more. I like that, Mr. Mark. For sure. What is the simplest way to track where referrals are actually coming from so we can double down on what's working?
Excellent question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I just alluded to, you'd have that little card, and you'd have the person that's referring simply put their name on it, sign it on the back, says referred by, and you have them print so that there's no ambiguity of like whose name is that. And as he said, it's simply a matter of knowing, okay, if I'm getting 75% of my business over here and 13% over here and 5% over here, cut the 13 and the 5, or whatever the numbers work out to be percentage wise, and double down on what's working. That's how you grow exponentially. See, the problem is you and I are doing all these things, and as he says, you don't really know what's working for you the most and what's not, because you're not tracking. When you start tracking, you'll know where your leads come from and the ones that convert. And when you test A/B split test different offers, you start knowing which are the most potent offers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you go from what Daniel and I call working extremely hard in your business or service to working very hard, smart and hard on your business and service. That's where exponential growth from. In fact, you guys know that Daniel is quiet. He's kept. He's like number one in these two categories with his podcast. Would I rather come on here and leverage his audience, or go somewhere else and speak on a much smaller stage, if you will, virtual stage? I'm here. For the same amount of time, I'm getting more exposure. That's called leverage. You do more, and you do less and you get more. So that's what you and I want. So that's a very important question, Jenny. I'm glad you asked it. You got to track, because if you don't, you got a blindfold on and you're just shooting in the dark. You don't know what's working and what's not. There's I won't say no way. It's very difficult for you to move ahead under those circumstances. Once you start tracking, you know what's the best headline, what's the best PS, what's the best offer. That's how you start moving ahead.
Mr. Mark, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen to your podcast. So, Mr. Mark, if a business owner is starting from zero with no formal referral process, what is the one single action they should take this week to get their flywheel started?
Oh, excellent question. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, start at home, meaning look around, do an audit. What are the resources and assets you already have? You have customers, you have vendors, you start with them because they will, it's sort of like you want to do what is not only comfortable, but what makes the most sense in terms of relevance. Why talk to strangers? You run an ad, people don't know who you are, and you got to do all this to warm them up when you already got a warm audience that knows, like, and trust you, vendors who know, like, and trust you. You can leverage them, and you should be leveraging. And if you need any help, excuse me, paid professional help, please reach out to me. We can talk first. I'll give you a free 30-minute consultation. You can find out if this stuff works for you or not. If it doesn't work, no hard feelings. We can still be friends. But if you're running a business and you're trying to create more profit for less, we need to talk.
Yes, indeed. Let's communicate with Mr. Mark Newsome. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now? Mr. Mark,
Yes.
would you please invite our listeners to visit your website or anything you want to promote on Abstract Site?
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, that's the index page of homepage of my blog. It's You Can Market Online. That's all one word, YOU, canmarketonlinenow.com. That's my home. Check it out. I guarantee you, there's a ton of content on there, and somewhere in there is a way for you to move off center. And if it's not, then unfortunately, I'm not your guy.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mark Newsome, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering referrals to come, more and more empowering advocacy or business to come. So, Mr. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.